A marathon of severe weather events is going to take place over the next week and a half across the United States. If we start here with our day one SPC outlook, or our day two, pardon me, you will see the SPC has added a quite large enhanced risk of severe weather, extending from parts of eastern Minnesota back into portions like northern Indiana. Damaging winds, large hail, and a few strong long-track tornadoes are going to be possible. As you can tell, the SPC has added a 10% hatch risk, and it is rather large, but I would not be surprised to see it pushed back across portions of Illinois and Indiana, because I do think that we are going to have a decently prime environment for some long-track tornadoes if the cap is to break. You can see we do have a 30% non-hatch damaging wind risk, and we do have a very large 30% hatched hail risk, along with a 15% hatched hail risk in some areas. But it will not stop there. Moving on to Friday, May 16th, we have another enhanced risk of severe weather across portions of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Tennessee, and Kentucky, and Ohio. Now, we are not 100% sure on this with the main hazards, but you can imagine damaging wind, large hail, and maybe even a few long-track tornadoes are going to be possible. We do have a quite large 30, along with a 15% hatched risk. That represents a 10% probability of significant severe weather happening. So that means damaging winds in excess of 75 miles an hour, hail up to 2 inches in diameter or greater, and a few long-track tornadoes. It does not stop there, though. If we go ahead and look at the Day 5 SPC outlook, they have added a pretty small slight risk to portions of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And we're watching this very closely, as I do think this will be a big day. Now, it does not stop there, as if we move on to Monday on the Day 6 outlook, we have a pretty large risk across portions of Kansas and Oklahoma, and I do think this may be the bigger day, though, and I will explain why in a moment. If we go and move on here to the HRRR, we are going to see here, we're watching if the cap breaks tomorrow, and the latest HRRR, it's going to be a big question, like I said, but the latest HRRR doesn't show it really. So we're watching that very closely. But I will say up here in parts of Wisconsin, we are watching that damaging wind threat really closely. So we are going to keep an eye on that big time, as that is a big problem that we are going to have. Now, I will say it is pushed a bit farther to the north, so we are going to have to watch that closely as well. And we actually do see a few storms start to fire. Now, if we go and move on to the significant tornado parameter, we are going to see, if we fast forward here to the end of the run, you can tell that there's not much in the way, but if we take it back a little bit, we do have a decent environment, but nothing too crazy, I do have to say. But we are going to have to be watching it, and we may end up going live for this event, so make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new here, as there's actually a good chance we will go live. Moving on for our Friday event, if we go and look at the NAM 3KM CONUS, we are going to see many storms are appearing here, and this would be worst case scenario in parts of Illinois along with Indiana. But the thing for Friday is how much of this convection is able to linger and how far to the south it is going to be. So if we go ahead and fast forward a bit more, you can tell it does look like we are going to have some storms there in the morning. But if those get out and we get that clearing there in parts of Kentucky, it is going to cause problems. As you can tell, we are going to have a pretty intense bowing segment from portions of even far northeastern Arkansas back into portions like southern Indiana and southern Ohio. And that is only going to continue to march to the eastward before it dives south and does die out. And we are going to actually have the chance for a few tornadoes as well, and maybe even a few long track tornadoes. As you can tell, we do actually have a pretty primed environment. It's going to be a matter of can we get storms in this environment. So yet again, Friday is a day that we may have to go live again, as there is a ton in the way of the significant tornado parameter value. And I would not rule this out going moderate risk either. So gonna have to keep an eye on that very closely. Now I wanted to take a bit of a deeper dive into what next week could look like in terms of severe weather in portions of the plains, and maybe a bit into the future. So right now we have a trough digging, and it is going to eject a bit farther to the north. So if we go and take this ahead a little bit, we are going to see that low pressure system will eject off to the north in portions of South Dakota and Minnesota, bringing damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes being possible, maybe even a long track one or two. But moving ahead, we are going to see our next low pressure system developing off the coast of California, and that is going to dig, as you can tell. It is going to put a deep trough over parts of California and Arizona, and we do have a strong negatively tilted trough, it looks like, and we are going to have a decent amount of wind shear there in portions of Oklahoma, and this will be for Tuesday the 20th. So taking it back a little bit, we have our negatively tilted trough here, low pressure on the Rockies. If that ejects, it is going to cause some problems. We are expecting it to eject too, and that is why the SPC has put in play those two 15% risks of severe weather. Please pardon this right now. As if we go and take a look at dew points, actually. If we go and take a look at dew points, yes. You can tell tomorrow is one thing I wanted to point out as well here. There are some pretty high dew points. Along with Friday, there's some pretty high dew points. But the one thing I was watching was next week. We are going to see some decently high dew points. As you can tell, we do get 74 dew point in Tulsa. And if we get storms in that area, it is going to be a problem. So make sure you're staying weather aware if you are in the plains. And if we go and look at surface-based CAPE next, if it would load, as nothing is loading right now. I don't know why it is doing this. If I go and head over here to maybe a different model site, it may load. But if not, it has been really low humidity, I should say, in some areas, and really hot lately. And it has been really hot here too, and I think that is causing some problems as well. But if we go ahead and head over here to the GFS model, if it will load, I'll give it about another 15 seconds, and if not, it will do it for this video. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you are new here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.